broadcasting live out of a basement in Appleton, Wisconsin. You're tuned into Fox City's Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. For the show that gives you an opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. Our call-in line is 920-358-0795. Core. My next guests are a Midwest-based punk-influenced rock band. They recently released a self-titled album and quickly got nominated in the New Artist of the Year category for the Wisconsin Area Music Industry Awards. Please welcome Am Girlsperm to Fox City's Core. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
Good.
Morning.
Thank you.
It does feel weird to say that.
A little bit.
You get used to it.
When you guys were thinking of a band name, did you think that you'd have to like show up on an interview show and like say it?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because when we were talking about putting this project together, I told a buddy of mine what the name of the band was, and I was thinking about, having him be the drummer in the band. And he goes, yeah, I'd love to do the project, but not if it's named that. I don't want to be associated with that.
And our first thought for a singer turned it down because
of the
name also.
Yeah. So it's it sounds a little bit I don't know what controversial is not the right word, but a
little naughty.
I think it's interesting because it means absolutely nothing, and so many people take offense to it or take notice of it. It isn't anything.
Right.
It's really nothing. It's just the word sperm for some reason.
Right.
If a doctor says it, it's perfectly fine. But if a rock band says it, then it's something bad. But it does get your attention, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love the name.
So this project has been like it really did come out of nowhere. The first time I heard about it was Marc. I was with you, and you kind of put it on my radar, and I was instantly like in love with this band.
Right, just from the name. Right? Am I wrong? Because you're curious to know what this is all about.
Well, yeah, you get it, and you're like, what? I mean, the name sticks out in your head because it's different, and it seems like it shouldn't be a band name. But so then I listened to it, and it wasn't what I was expecting, especially like people that might be familiar with music that you typically are a part of. Marc, I was talking to Betsy a little bit before the show started, and said it's just normally like this style of music, if you're a really well-versed musician, this music sometimes you might look down on it and be like, well, punk music or grungy punk, it's too good for that. But you guys wrote some really good songs, and it's stuff I really enjoy listening to. So, I mean, can you tell us like how the band started, or where the first inkling of Am Girlsperm came to be?
Well, it's kind of a funny story, but years and years and years ago, our oldest daughter had a band with her 3 cousins, and they were triplets. And they could play one song. What was the song?
It was a Green Day song.
Yeah.
Their eyes were going to bleed all day long.
Just like they played the song over and over and over again. But they were trying to come up with a name for a band, and I, for whatever reason, I jokingly just said, oh, you should name it Girlsperm. And they rejected that right away.
They did.
But I just put in the back of my head, someday I'm going to write a punk album, and I'm going to have the name of the band be Girlsperm. So I had this in the back of my head for like 20 years. And for whatever reason, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, I woke up one day and just said, I'm going to write that punk album now. And I want to have a girl singer, because I felt like I wasn't really going to be able to carry off the vibe of it. So I just had this idea, and I told Marc, and Marc was like, okay, Fry Man.
Well, mind you, this guy writes a song a day, sometimes 2. And we've done how many records in the past couple years? 5 or something like
6,
that.
Yeah.
And they're all very well produced, polished, kind of blues rock stuff, which is great. But then he started writing for this punk record, which was writing for a character, this Girlsperm character. And he just came out from a different angle than he always does, which is, the old way isn't a bad way either. But this was so exciting. And I think I bullied my way in. You probably was going to have Woody play guitar on it. Right. And I'm like, no, I like these songs too much, and I'm the guy to play them. Because it needs to be more visceral. It needs to be more that, But it's still melodic, so it's still like kind of like Nirvana was the Sex Pistols and the Beatles. You know, you might think I would try to do my prog rock sort of thing, but there's enough really great melodies and interesting things going on with this music to keep me interested, and it just feels really good. So
when you were recording it, you knew there was something there right away.
I think from the demos, because, you know, we were thinking punk, and then I'm like, well, we can't do a punk record with a slick drummer. You know, yes, they could have pulled it off, but that's when I had the idea of getting Sammy Meade. And everyone knows Sammy from playing in, you know, cover bands around here and stuff, but back in the 80s, he was an authentic punk with all the stories attached and all that sort of stuff. Like, he lived that 1980s hardcore punk vibe, and he still pulled it out, and that's, I think, the vibe of the record starts with the drums, you know, because of his experience.
Yeah, Betsy, let's talk about. So you mentioned you had a different singer in mind that kind of didn't.
Well, we were going back and forth. I had this teenage, authentic goth punk girl that I had worked with, that I thought would be really good, and then he had Sean Marie in mind, and she was totally into it and claimed that she could sing the stuff, and then out of nowhere, she chimes in. She never sang a note in her life.
And I was like, I could try.
So, I mean, that you obviously didn't have any qualms about, like, you must have felt like a little nervousness, I'd guess.
Well, it was pretty easy because I did the vocals at our house. So I was just in a room by myself singing it and playing it back. But I was just curious whether it would work or not. So it was fun to try it. And then it really became a lot of fun. And I got into the entire project idea.
And you have nothing to lose.
No, because my reputation wasn't going to suffer by
Well, it might be now. But.
So, I mean, hearing yourself back on playback when Marc played back for you, I mean, that must have been kind of a weird feeling to hear all of a sudden you're in a studio. I mean, most people don't experience that. They have to go through the hoops of, you know, forming the band, and of course, you know, David and Marc working on this project, and you get pulled in, and it's almost kind of a little bit like garbage in a way. A little bit.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he's never even asked me to sing backups, which now I'm a little offended about. But but no, it is uncomfortable a little bit at first listening to myself. But then as I play the songs more and more, I get more comfortable with it and can actually enjoy the song rather than picking apart my vocals.
Well, it was funny because when I was writing the project and I was saying I was going to bring in a female singer, she was like, well, I'd like to just try one song. Like, write me one song. I just want one song on the record, and let me just try, because I think I could sing punk. And I'm like, honey.
Which one was that?
Well, it turned out to be Blow.
Okay.
But funny enough, I said, honey, you can't sing. Like, you like literally can't sing. And she was like, no, I think I could do this. And she goes, just write me a song that's going to sound like a Courtney love track. And so I said, okay, I'll get right on that, honey. Well, 2 weeks go by, and she's like, where's my song? And I'm like, well, honey, I thought you were joking. She's like, no. So I wrote the song, and she sang it, like, you know, we kind of played it on acoustic guitar, and she sang it, and instantaneously I was like, this might work. It was just like in that instant, I was like completely shocked at, like, it's like just the right vibe for the project. And so I had to rewrite the whole album because it had a whole different meaning all of a sudden. So yeah, it was so I ended up taking the weekend and writing a whole new album, and that became this project. So
see, our issue from this point forth, now you've been singing how many months?
I think it was 6.
6 months?
Yeah.
The fear that we all have is that she starts getting too good and loses her punk vibe.
right.
I don't really think we have to worry about that.
Well, I might have jumped the gun here too. So can we go down the row and say what your name is and what you do in the band?
Oh, sure. I'm Betsy, and I do lead vocals.
I'm a fryman, and I write most of the songs. I sing some background. I play a tiny little bit of guitar on a couple of the tracks.
I'm Marc Goldie. I own Rock Garden Studio, where we recorded everything. And on the record, I played bass and drums, or bass and guitar. But when we gig out, we have our first rehearsal tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, that's exciting.
We want to be out playing this summer. I'll be playing lead guitar, and Kurt Calder's going to step in on bass.
Very cool.
If he passes the audition tomorrow.
Our standards are high.
Very high.
Well, it's like just the people you have playing on this project is exciting. And Mark, I know you're probably itching to get back out and do some gigging and some live shows.
Well, it's definitely been a hole in my soul for decades that I'm not performing. And I figured it had to be on some grand scale, like elaborate thing with the best players and all that sort of stuff. But that takes a lot of resources and time and money and, all that sort of stuff. And I kind of had that lined up before COVID, but then everything kind of changed and all that. And then this came along, and I think I may have this was just a recording project. Yeah. It's all it was. And I kind of I want to play these songs. I want to play these songs live in front of people. And then we started talking about it. So it's definitely, this is a record first, and now we're turning it into a live band.
Well, and you put out some good stuff, like during the quarantine. Is there any chance that maybe Am Girlsperm would play a couple Marc Goldie songs?
I have some songs in my back pocket that are unreleased that would fit this band perfectly. So we gotta see. First, we gotta see if we can play together.
Fireman, would you be okay sharing some of the songwriting with Mark Sharon? So that's kind of if you kind of did more of the songwriting at the beginning. Sometimes people have a hard time.
I don't really have a big ego about all that stuff. I mean, if the track fits, it fits. So, I just have a vision of the project, how I want it to sound, and, who writes the material or whatever makes no difference. I mean, we talk about maybe some cool covers that we'll do when we play live and stuff. And so, I'm totally open to that. The more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned.
And did you write most of the lyrics?
I wrote all the lyrics. Well, except for a couple of lines. Betsy changed a few lines.
Isn't it funny how well he can write for a teenage runaway?
I was going to say there are some lyrics that kind of are on the kind of I don't know the term to say, runaway teen kind of.
Well, that was the idea of the project. So the original idea, the first album that I wrote for the project, was about this young girl who's having trouble at home. Her parents are sort of abusive. She goes to a punk show and leaves with the band, never goes back home. And then she becomes this rock star. So that was the idea of the original album. So
it could still happen in real life.
We don't
know.
You're
we
right.
don't know.
Yeah. So I was trying to write from that perspective. I had this character in mind, and so I was trying to write from that sort of a perspective of how would this young teenager who's run away from home see it. But then when Betsy got involved and we wrote Blow, it was much more mature, and I thought, I think I need to write a whole different album around this. So then I wrote a second album.
He does do a really good job of writing songs from a woman's perspective. I sing them and I'm like, this is awesome. This is perfect.
So you said you made some tweaks. What kind of things did you tweak?
Just if I prefer to sing something a different way, sometimes I'll adjust the line and see if he notices first. And then if he does, then I have to state my case as to why I like that better.
Yeah, and she was very helpful with kind of giving the original idea of what the song should be about. She was like, write me something that's going to sound like Courtney Love. And I'm like, okay, well, what would Courtney Love want a song about? And so she tells me what Courtney Love would want a song about. And so it kind of gave perspective, and then I was able to take that and kind of expand on that whole idea for the album. So.
Okay, so the pink elephant in the room is the opening line to Blow is blow jobs and blow.
Correct.
That's all I know?
Yeah.
It's the world I know?
Yeah, because I said, well, what would Courtney Love want a song about?
And I said blowjobs and blow. But
A
with
song
all
is
of
born.
it, and even with Playground, we played around with that beginning with, you knock me down, then you knock me up. And, it just becomes like a conversation, and then he pulls it into a song. Like, he has this amazing ability. You can talk about something, and then all of a sudden it's a song.
That's kind of scary.
Well, it is, especially when you are in an argument and you say something not so nice, and then the next thing you know, it's featured in a song, and I'm like, what the heck?
Well, there's a line in that song, "I'm not your punching bag," so it kind of like is, I mean, abused teen runaway getting kind of stuck in a situation.
Right.
And the band name, it does grow on you, but like when my son asked who I was listening to the other day, I said, "Am Girlsperm," and he laughed and he said, "Perm, that's funny." Just, I don't know why, but there's something about that word. I don't know. It's just tough to say.
Yeah. Well, it's punk, you know.
Well, and I didn't realize how stuck on the last word people would get. I guess it didn't really occur to me.
Yeah.
We need to normalize the word sperm.
Right.
Maybe
That's
that could be our campaign.
Yeah. Stickers. Normalize sperm.
Oh my God, I love that.
Well, like, remember the first time you heard the band name, the Dead Kennedys, how offensive that sounded?
Yeah.
And now it's just a band from, back when. But at the time, I remember being a kid and hearing that name, and I'm like, what terrible people to have a band called that. You know? So that makes our little sperm thing no big deal.
Right.
Well, when we get into merchandising, maybe it'll just be normalizing sperm.
Right. Sammy was in a band called Party of Clowns, and they were kind of a comedy punk band, and they had a song called I Am Sperm.
There you go.
We should probably cover that. Yeah.
That would be a great one.
That would be.
I'm liking where this is going with, normalizing the word. Let's talk about Sammy since he's not here.
Yeah, totally.
Like, so you mentioned Party Clowns. That band was a great band. And
Yeah. There's one music video out on YouTube.
What If All the Dogs Barked?
Yep, What If All the Dogs Barked, so you can check them out. I played with Sammy and Kurt in a band called the Shagtones. We just went out there and did funny versions of stuff. In fact, we talked about covering Celebrity Skin, and Kurt reminded me that we did a hillbilly version of that. Yeah. Hey, down and down, like a hoedown sort of thing. But Sam's been knocking around for a long time. He's a good singer, too.
Just a great guy, too.
Yeah.
I mean, just super easy to work with. I always get nervous because I'm not a great player, and I've got to, somehow convince the drummers, when we're doing these demos that I've got the right vibe, and I've got to kind of tell them what I'm hearing in my head. And I don't have language for a lot of the musical stuff because I've never studied music. I just picked up the guitar and started playing. So I'm trying to explain this stuff. And Sammy was just so, I don't know what the right word, receptive, or just kind of understood naturally where we were going with it. And then Marc always kind of comes in and says, well, is this what you're trying to say, Fryman? Like, is this what you mean? Like, and so between the three of us, we came up with some, I think, really, really solid drum parts.
The thing with the projects we've been doing, not just Girlsperm, but the Fall Away Angels, which is the other project, is that basically when we're doing the basic recording, it's the drummer and Fryman in a room, and he's playing an acoustic guitar. So I have to tell the drummer, you have to imagine this with big guitars. You have to imagine this is a heavy rock song because it's not going to sound like it while you're playing it. So that's what the drummers have to do for us, is kind of lay down the groundwork for what's going to be. But normally a band comes in and you kind of hear pretty much what it's going to sound like. The guitars are loud and everything's going. But in this situation, a drummer really has to have the imagination to lay down what's going to be, hard later.
Yeah, and sometimes that's hard for me to explain what I'm hearing in my head, because again, I don't have the language or the musical, background or whatever. So, like a lot of times I'll be like, well, can you make it sound like, Jimi Hendrix with, a little Eric Johnson kind of vibe, and so they'll be like, okay, well, let's try that. So,
yeah, I mean, it's the sounds on there, the drum sounds, I mean, everything, like the opener with It's Okay, with it kind of starts off sort of, it does kind of sound a little Courtney Love-ish when it starts out, but then it just comes in hitting. And as far as the sequencing goes, did you guys play around with the sequencing for a while before you landed on one that sounded right?
With this album, oddly, I think I had an idea of the sequence as I was writing the songs because, again, I was trying to tell a story. And they all just kind of fit pretty well. So when we recorded them, we kind of recorded them in the order that they were on the album. And so I think that kind of worked because as we kind of worked through the different progressions of the songs, we knew kind of what we wanted the end sound to be, that big, ending that comes on the last song. And so we were able to kind of say, okay, where do we need a little space? So then I kind of took a song and I would say, okay, well, Blow, we want to have it be, kind of our spacer, right? We come out with 3 songs that are pretty intense. We need a little breath there. Well, let's put an acoustic on it. So just different kinds of things like that we did production-wise. But this one, it just kind of fell in place.
I think the great thing about the record is most of the songs are close to 2 minutes long. So they're hooky, they're catchy, they get stuck in your head, but they don't overstay their welcome. You're moving on. And what's the total length of the whole thing? 30?
It's like 23 minutes.
23 minutes. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like you've been on an adventure, but it's not long, so it's not a lot to really ingest.
Which is, right up my alley. You get great songs that hit you quick. You want to hear them again.
Yeah.
You keep playing them.
Yeah.
You released it kind of unconventionally. You had, I don't know if you did anything besides what I've noticed, but uploaded it to a website. And then CDs came out. There wasn't like a traditional, this is our first single, we're going to send it off to, at least I don't think there was, off to radio stations and stuff like that.
No, to be honest with you, we haven't really done anything to promote it. That's not really what I do. We need if there's a promoter out there that wants to push the album, we'd love to talk to you.
What I did is he gave me a bunch of copies to give away, and instead of stacking them up on the front desk at the studio, I laid them all out so you couldn't not look at them. And it got everyone's attention, then the name on top of that. So, a lot of people grab CDs and they love it. But
well, the word of mouth has been pretty cool with this band as well, because it's the name, and then you get drawn into the music, and I think it's awesome that you guys are gonna play some shows.
Yeah,
that's the best part, and that's the real part for me, is that, again, everything depends on tomorrow. It could suck and we could say forget this, but is like normally, okay, I want to be in a band, or we should form a band, and then you form a band, and then now we need some material, and the whole thing is the desire to be in a band, and which is great and it works for a lot of people. But here it's more the music. It's like, I want to play these songs. That's what I'm picturing, is playing these songs. So it's really inspired by the art itself, not to get too heavy.
Yeah, I mean, I quit playing live, 15 years ago or something. And I just write because I want to write. Like, I have these songs inside me, and I love the process. I love recording. And so for me, this was just an experiment. Can I write an album like that, right? Can I find a completely different voice than what I'm doing in Fall Away Angels or the other projects I've done over the years? And so it really just started out as a musical experiment, and it has, like, the word of mouth has been crazy. Like, people are coming up and saying, "Are you that Girlsperm guy?" So
It'll be on your grave.
right.
Is it kind of weird for you and Betsy to all of a sudden be like, you're recording a project at Rock Garden, all of a sudden you're in a project with Marc Goldie from Rock Garden? Is that kind of weird?
It's extraordinarily weird. It's really cool. It's really been fun. Our entire family is musical besides me until now. Our kids sing. Our daughter has a vocal scholarship, so I'm surrounded by really talented musicians, and so I was always the cheerleader, and now actually getting to do it and be part of it, it's really fun. It is a little surreal though.
How old are your kids?
So they are 19, 20, and 32.
And they're all fans of Girlsperm?
They definitely don't like the surf punk song. They demand we don't play that one in the car if they're in the car with us. But they actually think it's fun. They think it's fun to watch us work on it together. And
the interesting thing about our kids is, like, I write an album, I put out an album, I'll give them a CD, and I'll say, "Hey, what'd you think?" "Oh, yeah, I haven't plugged it in yet, Dad." They don't really get around to it,
Our middle child did sing background vocals on the last song on the album.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And another turn on.
Yes. Yep, and she actually has an incredible voice. So
Were they in the studio at Rock Garden when you were doing that portion? Did they stop by the studio and hang out with you guys during the recording?
No, but David has hung out at the studio. He came down one time to watch us record because he was kind of interested. He plays a little guitar and writes rap music and stuff, and so he was kind of interested to see what a real studio looked like instead of my basement studio. But
yeah, no, Emma recorded the background down in our basement.
yeah, I have a recording studio down there.
Yeah, so that would be Lampshade Studio.
Yeah.
Very nice. We had a question from Jerry. One of Marc's many talents is producing videos. Have there been any conversations of videos for any of the tracks? That's a really good question. Thanks,
There is. I'm recently getting into 360-degree virtual reality video, which you can't, until you see it, you don't know what I'm talking about. But it's basically like playing a video game, but it's not computer-generated graphics. It's actual video of people in real environments, sort of thing. But you're still in it, sort of thing. And I think we should definitely, if we get past tomorrow.
All this pressure on
there's no
tomorrow.
pressure.
Well, I keep making all these promises that we're going to do all these great things in the future. But
I feel like I better go home and practice.
yeah, myself too. But I think it'd be cool to do a 360 video with a bunch of like crazy misfit characters and stuff to Girlsperm song.
Yeah, and then we have an idea we have five of the songs for the next album are already pretty much in the can, and we've got an idea for a video for one of those songs that Mark and I were kind of kicking around the other day. So yeah, there will probably
There'll be something.
Like I say, it's I don't know. Like this is just it's sort of a fun just goof. It's a goof, but it's turning into something, which is kind of weird.
That's the best part, and that's why it is, because there's not that formal. Here we're going to form a band and market it to you, and we're going to do the stuff that bands do. This is more like it's inspired by the music itself and the energy of the music, and that's what's propelled all of this interest. Yeah. I think.
So, Mark, you played most of the electric guitar. Mm-hmm. The tone is really good on there, obviously.
Well, I can't go wrong with a old Les Paul through a vintage Marshall stack.
That's did you play around with the tones, getting the tones
No.
right, or you kind of knew what you wanted already?
Plug it in, turn it up to 10. That's it. That's this kind of record.
And we did the same with the bass.
Yeah, the bass was also recorded through that same Marshall stack, cranked.
What?
So if
That's
you ever
interesting.
hear the bass by itself, you can hear the distortion, but it blends in with the rest of it. So it really does enhance the excitement of the record.
The funny thing was when we were recording, Mark would play like a solo or he'd do something, and I'd be like, okay, Mark, you have to think you're a 17-year-old kid who's not really good at guitar yet. And you have to like put some weird stuff in there, make it so it's not quite right. Otherwise, it's not going to sound punky, you know. So I think he had a hard time playing down to the level that we were trying to get to, but it all worked really well.
No, but it's very visceral guitar playing,
Yeah.
which is fun, especially all the rhythm stuff. There's only one solo on the record, I think. Playground.
Well, but you're playing.
There's
some
other
stuff.
stuff.
In the background.
Yeah, there's other stuff there. But,
Noodling stuff.
and then some of the acoustic stuff that David did, I wanted it to sound bad. I wanted the contrast between like a really crappy sounding guitar and then the big,
Which is perfect because I'm not a good guitar player.
So I think some of those were the scratch tracks
Yep.
direct with a not a very good sounding acoustic guitar direct into the board. But I'm like, I like that it's different, and I might have put an effect on it or something. But once in a while, you need a real crappy guitar sound. It's just the perfect thing for the job.
Yeah, it works sometimes.
Yeah.
The special guests today, the band Am Girlsperm, a newer band in the Fox Cities. If you haven't heard of them yet, you will soon. Great album that it's on Spotify. They also have physical copies. If somebody's looking to get a physical copy, where can they get a physical copy of this?
Probably the best thing to do right now would be to, I guess, send a an email to
Self-addressed stamp envelope.
right. We give away CDs. We're a band that gives away CDs. So if somebody wants one, I think I've got about 50 left from this printing. So
And they could just DM me on Instagram. I Am Girlsperm does have an Instagram page.
and we also have a Facebook page, so you could send us a message on the Facebook page, and we'll get you something sent out.
I ask this a lot. Are CDs worth anything anymore? I mean, is that even a consideration when you're recording? Like your next one, are you thinking, well,
I just love a CD. So it's so funny. I record these projects. We spend I don't know how many hours doing these albums, and I print 100 copies and I send them to all my buddies. Like everybody that listens to my music, I've got a regular list, and that's it. And then the project's done, and it just goes away. So. That's kind of what I expected to do with this Girlsperm, record as well. I'd send it out to some of my friends, and they'd be like, "Okay, this is insane."
And one year for Christmas, he actually made a box set of how many CDs were in there. It was a big box, and he gave them out for Christmas for everybody, and it was actually really cool.
Here's a big box of me.
Well, I didn't say his ego wasn't involved in that present, but
Well, I think I've recorded, I don't know, is it about 11, 12, 13 albums now. So,
well, you mentioned Fallen Angels. Was that
Fall Away Angels, yeah.
was that a original project or?
Yeah, so when I started recording with Marc, which I guess was 2017, this was another experiment. So I had this idea of writing an album. I got really into the Avett Brothers. I went through an Avett Brother period. And I still love the band, but I had never written anything kind of in that country blues, rockabilly sort of vibe, and I wanted to see if I could. So I just decided to try to write an album like that, and for whatever reason, Angels kept coming up in the songs, and one of the songs was called Fall Away Angel, or Angels Fall, or something like that. I can't remember now, it's been so long. But anyway, so that's how I came up with the name, and it just became a recording project. And so we've written, I guess we just finished our 4th album with that band. So yeah, it's a much different vibe. That album, we got Greg Koch to come up and play all the lead guitar, so very blues orientated. The next couple have been a lot more kind of rock orientated. But it's good stuff.
And you get real guitar players for that.
Yeah.
Like Woody Larson plays on most of that stuff.
And he's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, so it sounds like you've kind of downplayed your guitar playing a few times during the show already, but it sounds like you are a fantastic songwriter. You just like to get other people to play the guitar.
Well, I know my limitations. That's I can play enough to be dangerous. Like, I can play enough to write the song. And I always played rhythm guitar in my band, so I mean I can play a little bit of rhythm guitar, but I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, right? And guys who are really good players, I'd rather have it be great and let somebody else do what they're great at. So Marc is an amazing recording engineer, and he's got the ears, so when he tells you something, you listen, right? And so same thing with guitar players. I've been so fortunate to work with unbelievable people, Mark Lamar, and Woody and Mark and Tal Wilkenfeld and Vinny Caluto and all these people. I mean, it's been an amazing thing. And I don't consider myself a musician because I've never really studied music. I don't know, like if I hear a song on the radio, I can't tell you what the chords are. Like when we did cover songs, the guys, my guitar players, always had to teach me the songs because I just can't hear it. But I can, for whatever reason, I can hear what sort of works with these tracks as I'm writing them. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but
Tom Petty couldn't shred, nor could Bruce Springsteen or Bob Dylan or
right. Yeah, so you find the people who know how to do it, and then you get the best product, which is ultimately what I want to get, is the best sounding stuff that we can. So,
And luckily, your wife is the perfect singer for this project. And
Yeah, they keep telling me don't get too good. So I'm like, well, that just takes all the pressure off.
well, she started taking voice lessons. I'm like, honey, please don't do that.
I took a couple because, and it was really actually very helpful. I took a couple because he can be fairly demanding as to what he would like, and end product wise. And I had a hard time trying to figure out how to get to that point sometimes. So it was really helpful.
Well, and Betsy can obviously handle her own since she plays for the Green Bay Dragons hockey club.
That's right.
So that's,
Yes.
I mean, is that kind of a nice, I mean, obviously you're already on a team somewhat, so to speak. So this is kind of moving to a musical team here with your husband and Marc and Sammy. How does hockey play it all into your singing style? It's kind of a weird, awkward question, but I mean, you're kind of, when you're performing, it is athletic. Mm-hmm. I think if people aren't performing or they're not singing, you're using a lot of muscles. I mean, is there anything that can connect? It's probably a stretch, hockey to fronting a band.
No, I think it does because I run. I'm a runner also, and I thought that was a lot of cardio. But sprinting up and down the ice on skates is way, way more demanding, and it does help because when I want to belt it out, I have the ability to breathe better. Maybe I don't know the technical terms, and I certainly haven't trained at all to sing, but just having that the good cardio has helped, and I tend to enjoy a little bit of aggressive sports. Like I think roller derby would have been right up my alley if I were 20 years younger, but I really enjoy that, and so I think some of the energy is the same. Just being aggressive and getting out there and doing it.
So what can we expect when, obviously you're practicing tomorrow, but when you guys start playing shows, are we going to be able to expect a very aggressive, front person on this band, just engaging aggressively with the crowd, or are you going to be sort of standing there and just focusing on singing?
Oh no, we're not going to stand there and focus on singing. I don't think that's the right angle for that one. I'll be curious to see where it ends up. But I'm having fun. So I want to get out there and have fun. I want everybody that comes to see us play have fun if we pass Marc's test tomorrow. I just want it to be fun and engaging, and it was just going to be a recording project, but it's been so much more fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes and to seeing how far it goes. And
I mean, the comical thing, if you think about it, is we're a bunch of middle-aged people playing this music, which in and of itself is kind of comical, right? So I think you start with people looking at you like, well, what is this going to be about, right? And then you have to sell it, right? I mean, we're going to have to sell it. And so that's where, her presence on the stage is going to be important, and making sure that the amps sound right and stuff is going to be important. So yeah, I mean, it could either be awesome or it could just be like, holy cow, this is not good.
But that's the razor's edge that makes it exciting.
Right. That's right.
And where is that line?
Well, and it's funny, and it's funny because if you think about, one thing I'll give Betsy credit is she's not afraid to try something. So when she joined that hockey team, our son played hockey, and so she's like, that looks like fun. I think I'm going to join the women's team. I'm like, honey, you don't skate.
That wasn't actually accurate. I could skate, I just couldn't stop or turn. I could go forward rather rapidly. We just had a problem when it was time to stop or there was a body in my way.
So she's not afraid to jump in and try things, which I give her credit for.
We have a question here. Given the genre, was it a challenge to sound a little raw?
Oh no, that's just what it is. That is what
that's the whole point of having an inexperienced singer is it's going to be raw, and that's why it's perfect.
The first song I sang was Take My Girl Sperm, and the feedback was you sound like a angsty 17-year-old punk girl. And I'm like, thank you. Like, I'm not sure, like, but that is, I will say that track probably has the least amount of auto-tuning or correction. So that is pretty much, that was the first song, and that was just how it came out. And then we were all like, oh, maybe this will work,
Fryman, when you were writing the lyrics to Girl Sperm, you're writing "Take My Girl Sperm."
Right.
Yeah, I won't make it messy.
Right.
A lot of classic lines in there.
Right.
I mean, what, like, were you going for like something that was maybe gonna be a little controversial, or?
Well, if you think about this again, kind of to Mark's point, like.
You're taking it and kind of flipping it, where it's almost like
It's really, the album is about. It's about female empowerment. Is what people really don't get. Like, this woman has made a decision that she's going to live her life as a prostitute, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what the whole album is about. But she likes it, and it's her choice. And so what she's saying is, I'm going to be in charge. I don't even want to know your name. I don't want to hear about your life story. I don't want all this stuff. I'm just going to be the person who's getting something out of this moment, And so that's what that song's about. So it's like, there's kind of a, what do you call that? Hidden message with, messy. I don't want to make it messy. But really what she's saying is, I don't want it to be complicated. I just want to fool around. That's what I do, So it's really, oddly, in my mind, it was in a weird sort of way, it's an album about female empowerment. And I think if you listen, I'm not your punching bag, I'm not your playground, I don't want to know your name, I'm heading uptown and I'm doing these things, right? It's all about her making these decisions, but it's done in such a way that anybody can relate to it, right? And so it was, I'd like to say it was this big, well thought out thing, but to be honest with you, I was just goofing, trying to come up with lyrics that kind of had double meaning and could be taken kind of either way. So I don't know if I thought it might be controversial, like Blow, I thought for sure. And oddly,
that's the one they're playing on the radio.
That's the one that everybody's playing.
I thought that was a little strange too. I was like, that one?
I didn't think that would be the case, but
and Girl Sperm is so much fun to sing. Like, that one is really fun.
It's a good track.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of to loop back to before, you didn't really have a single. You weren't like, this is the single. You guys just sent the stuff out and people kind of picked what they wanted to play.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which, there's so many good tracks on this album, it's hard to pick. But yeah, Blow is an interesting choice for like FM.
Yeah. I was surprised.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for playing it.
Betsy, I'm a huge fan of your singing, and yeah, it does get compared to Courtney Love. I would say that it's better than Courtney Love.
Well, thank you.
I mean, so you were emulating, it sounds like, emulating her, but it seems like your voice is naturally already like at that register and it kind of has those qualities. So it's...
Well, I just, when I had said, write a song that Courtney Love could sing, and I'm going to give her credit here, I'd never tried to sing, just except in my car. So I had no idea, like, what it took to even, take a song that she could have sang very easily and it would have fit her naturally and sang that. So, I think definitely on Blow, I think it's got a Courtney Love vibe. But like on Girl Sperm, I almost think it has like a little bit of Joan Jett in there, but it wasn't, none of it actually is intentional. It just is sort of what happens. I take a song in and I sing it over and over and over again until I'm ready for David to hear it. He gets to hear it first. And then he gives me his feedback, but it just kind of morphs into what it is. It's not typically intentional.
And you guys explained it as kind of punk, but I do hear like grunge, and I hear a lot of different styles in here, which I guess grunge was birthed out of like a mixture of rock and punk, so that makes sense. But yeah, I'm super excited to hear you guys play live. Any chance that you might play Mile of Music this year? Is that looking too far ahead?
I think they might be booked already.
Oh,
So I think we'd have to get out there a little bit first before they consider us. Speaking of that Whammy nomination, it was you, wasn't it?
I don't know. Could have been, could not have been. But the Whammies, so I'll say this, the I Am Girlsperm CD I really like a lot. Like I bootlegged it and I sent it around to quite a few people, which I haven't done that in a long time with anything. So, and it's just, to me, it's a great album. Like the songs are in, if people are watching this that haven't heard the album yet, you can find it on Spotify. We mentioned it in a couple other online spots, but it's really good. And it takes a lot to kind of get me to listen to something over and over, and then no problem doing this.
And mind you, there are people who hate it. I've gotten feedback back. Yes,
they do not know music, good sir.
But that's, our world is polarized, and you can't make everybody happy. Otherwise, everything's watered down. So I think the more people that hate it, the better off we are. Not people that dislike it. People who, are people who absolutely hate it.
We just want you to feel strongly about it.
Yes, exactly. As long as you have strong emotions about it.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, and this is the funny thing, is that people who do listen to it and do like it, they play it repeatedly. Like, I hear this all the time. Like, I was listening to it again today. And I heard something completely different. I didn't realize that's what you were saying till I read the lyrics or whatever. So it is kind of an odd project that way. But I think if you like that style of music, right? I mean, you have to kind of be into that. It's not country. So, if you're into that sort of thing, you're probably not going to like this project. But if you're into that kind of alternative, punk influence, grunge, whatever this is, you're going to like it. And the songs, because the length of the songs were purposely kept very short, I think every song leaves you wanting more. That's what I find. When I listen to it, I'm like, maybe I should have wrote another verse there. And if I'm thinking that, other people are thinking, maybe 30 more seconds would have been great, right? But it leaves you wanting more. So, I just think the whole project oddly, just worked. For whatever reason, it just worked. And I couldn't have planned it that way, but it just worked.
I like the fact you put the lyrics in the booklet.
Yeah.
Did you do the designing, or did you have somebody do that for you?
No, actually, I designed that. That's all my photography, and
he's an amazing photographer, and probably the most prolific photographer in the world. Because most people take 1,000 photos and they edit it down to one. He puts out these photo books, and I think we're up to, and he brings one down for the studio every time.
Those are the photo books in the studio?
Yeah.
Those are awesome. I always look through those.
And
those are mine.
We're up to the 11th, 13th edition?
13 actual editions, and then there's 4 or 5 special editions.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, this guy shoots a lot, and so of course you're going to do the artwork on the record.
Yeah.
So what do you do with are those books commercially available?
Well, you can get them on blurb.com. They're called My Eye Magazine. But what I recommend, again, I probably am the wrong person to be in marketing, but I always tell people, don't buy the magazines because they're very expensive. But if you want to see them, you can go on your computer and you can go to Blurb, and they have a preview button. And if you hit the preview button, it opens up just like a magazine. So you can page through it just like you're going through a magazine without having to spend $20 to buy the actual magazine. So
see, I have the marketing for it, but he didn't like it. I thought the first one should have been called My Eye. And then the second one should have been My Eye, My Eye. And then the third one is My Eye, My Eye, My Eye.
Right.
Don't listen to me.
They are worth the $20. They're phenomenal.
Oh, they're great.
He really is a great photographer.
You could book some time at Rock Garden and check them out too. It's kind of where I paged through them, and I was seeing artists in there and sending them pictures of it, and they're like, "Where is that?"
Yeah. Well, I did Mile of Music. That's one of the things I look forward to is going down there and shooting. So I haven't done the Mile of Music special edition for last summer yet. I haven't got around to that, but it's just fun. Photography's always been something I've been really into. So
talk about the photos that we used on the album. Because those weren't shot for the record. These were photos that I just shot over the years of Betsy looking grungy.
Well,
I think the back one there that I can see, that was in the bathtub, because you can't do anything in our house without a camera in your face.
Right. Yeah, so, just these are all pictures. A lot of them are shot on my iPhone. Just kind of the old iPhones, they've kind of wrecked iPhone cameras because they've made them too good now. With the old cameras, you could put this little movement in it and you could get these great blurry pictures. And so a lot of the pictures in here are that. But yeah, it was just kind of stuff that I had laying around. And so when we were like, well, what are we going to do for artwork? I'm like, I think we should take some of these old pictures and put them in there. So that's what we did.
Well, if anybody's got a foot fetish, you can get Betsy's foot
Yeah.
in the CD there if you get a copy of that.
I think that was in Vegas. Was that in Vegas?
That was in Mackinac Island.
Oh, Mackinac Island.
Well, so yeah, the photography in here is really good. Mark, you've got some stuff coming up at the studio, some big stuff with the singer for Saving Abel.
Yeah. We're doing a taping of Live at the Rock, formerly Rock Garden Live, with Scotty Austin from Saving Abel, coming up on the 30th, I believe, Thursday.
Sometime at the end of March.
The end of the month. It's the last Thursday. Of
I should have wrote it in the notes.
Yeah.
I didn't.
They're a free show now. You can bring your own beer if you want, all ages. Just don't feed beer to the kids. And yeah, that should be exciting. He's got a really good band. And
Any chance that Girlsperm would play Live at the Rock?
oh, probably. We'll see how things go.
We'll see how tomorrow goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently I'm
There's a
gonna need to
litmus
practice for
test.
tomorrow.
There's a litmus test.
That'd be kind of weird for you, Mark, because you'd be
Totally.
doing all the running around and making sure that you put on a good performance.
Yeah. No, I think it would just make perfect sense that, after 100 episodes or so that, if I'm in a band, I might as well put the band on there. So.
And Live at the Rock, since we had you on, it's been over 3 years ago now, are you kind of still working on getting that to the old episodes will be aired out?
I'm still re-editing and re-editing and re-editing season 1 because it goes through different filters, different people. So I think sometime next week I'm going to get the final list of revisions, fixes, and then we send it in and see what happens.
And so the end game is to get it on a TV or streaming platform?
There's a national distributor. So what they do is they go out and sell it to different types of markets and stuff. So it will be on streaming and other things, but television is still where we're going. So PBS is kind of our last resort. We really would like to get some other stuff happening before that, but PBS, definitely the producer of the show, the executive producer, she has 3 shows already on PBS, so she knows the process and all that. And that could be, even that alone could be really huge too. So
yeah, I think it's great. The fact that I love the fact that you're starting to roll out some new shows, and that Saving Abel show should be really good.
Yeah, totally. That's kind of what we're going after from this point forth, is a little more of the what they used to call baby nationals. What I would like is to get bands on their way up, and not all of them are going to get up, but I have a attorney friend, a music or entertainment attorney friend in Chicago that I grew up with, and I went down to visit, and he was representing this TV show that was doing basically what I'm doing at the time. This was 12 years ago, and what they did was their show ran all the way through the 90s, and you would have loved it. You would have absolutely loved it. They caught the cream of the crop of grunge on their way up. So, because Chicago was good routing for most bands on their way from New York to wherever. And they had Jeff Buckley's very first televised performance and very last. Alanis Morissette before she became famous, and then the who's who of alternative and grunge bands before they were anything. And then they eventually sold the whole catalog for over $2 million to Disney. And Disney hasn't done anything with it, but they own it. So that was kind of the inspiration for the show. So I'd like to do that. So hopefully we could get some up-and-comers that do actually break big eventually. So we're approaching record labels and publishers and stuff, along with some locals.
I think it'd be great to see what's to come for that. Obviously, and same thing with Am Girlsperm. I'd love to see them on Live at the Rock. I think that would be pretty cool.
Totally.
That would be a lot of fun.
So is there a place playing in this band again? If the band starts going, Mark, it's a whole different landscape out there from when you were gigging around.
Yeah.
With the Bananas and the Mark Goldie band and stuff. Is there a place that you'd like to play yet that you haven't played in Appleton?
I'm thinking the small sort of like alternative places. We wouldn't have a whole night of material anyway. So I'm thinking we find some other bands that kind of fit what we're doing and just get on one of those bills and open for them and just kind of see where it takes us. First, just get out there and do it and have some fun. But like Misfit seems like a really cool fit. And then there's some grungy place in Green Bay too, isn't there? Is that the Lyric Room?
The Lyric Room is one. And I think there's a couple.
I don't mind a little vomit on the floor at the end of the show, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, we've got a good solid 23 minutes of music, so we're not going to carry a night on our own at this point.
We've got the second album coming.
We can always play it twice.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, 48 minutes.
My very first 4-hour gig, we had about a half-hour material, and we did it like 6 times. And then we did a really crappy version of Stairway to Heaven, and I just tried to solo as long as I could. Yeah, we made, I think, $25 to share.
Are you guys going to put anything out on vinyl?
We'll see how popular it gets. I don't know.
So, saying there's a chance.
Yeah. There's always a chance.
You said you were writing songs for the next album along the same vein as the debut album?
Yeah, I would say right in the same kind of vibe in terms of the musicality and stuff, the choice of the instruments. I think a couple of the songs.
Keyboards.
Yeah, we're gonna add some keyboards. We're growing as a band now, so we're gonna add some flock of seagull one notes.
Some stuff he can handle on stage.
Right. Yeah.
We got to put pieces of tape on the keyboard.
Any chance of getting a tambourine in there for me?
Right. Exactly.
Here's the thing I've learned through the years. Whenever someone says, "Well, I can't play an instrument, but I can shake a tambourine," no, you can't. No, you can't.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah,
It's harder than you think.
Yeah. But I think the new album's it's gonna be similar in tone, but the subject matter is gonna be different because we're kind of looking at the original album was about this girl leaving to join this punk band, and so that's kind of what we're exploring on the next album.
So then she accidentally wins the lottery and goes on a big spending spree.
Yeah.
And owns a fleet of Lamborghinis and then loses it all at the end.
You don't want to miss our single Louis Vuitton.
I feel so Gucci.
Right. Yeah. That's a pretty good one.
Well, I guess if it's not broke, don't fix it. So.
Right. Right. So I think we've got 5 really good songs that Betsy's finalizing the vocals on.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to add a few more instruments.
And I got a couple
stuff.
that you guys haven't heard yet.
And then we've got a couple that Marc has.
And the other thing I do is if he has a song that he's singing for Fall Away Angels, if I like it, I ask him if I can have it. So I get access to everything he's writing. There was one song that he wrote for himself, and I was like, oh, I love that. No, that has to be for Girlsperm. And, it's pretty cool when you live with the songwriter.
Yeah. Well, I wrote 2 new tracks for the project last night, so
he'll do that on his lunch break.
We've got a couple more. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a really good album. I think we'll probably have more songs on it though, so it plays more than 23 minutes.
Yeah.
Where can people go to find out more about I Am Girlsperm?
Well, we did just start a couple of Facebook pages. So either you can go to I Am Girlsperm or Girlsperm on Facebook. We're going to be putting together a web page. We haven't quite done that yet, so we will get a web page put together here shortly.
And then on Instagram, it's I Am Girlsperm, although I haven't done anything with it yet, so we'll have to get that up and going.
Yeah, so that would be where you can find us.
Well,
or get a hold of Marc at Rock Gardens.
Yeah, please. Call me on my cell.
He wants everybody to call him.
Yeah, call me on my cell.
Well, I appreciate you guys doing this. I'm super excited about this project.
Oh, this was awesome.
So are we.
I hope practice goes well tomorrow, so the shows start coming, and I really look forward to hearing the next album already. Not to keep the pressure on you guys,
Right.
but any parting words?
I am Girlsperm.
Right.
Normalize the sperm.
Right.
Normalize the sperm.